Hello, everybody. It's March 27th. This is the Friday Symposium. I'm Diane Sayre, independent presidential candidate, and I will be joined by some other independent candidates from around the country and my colleague, Jose Vega from the Bronx, who will be taking up the discussion of some of what's happened in his district, particularly harassment and targeting of candidates. And before we get to that, I just want to give a little bit of an update on the war situation. I think many people are very much on edge. We had this post from President Trump on Truth Social this morning. As per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent. I don't know any president who makes official statements on social media, serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Now, this comes after it was reported, and this is a Daily Mail coverage of a hearing of the Armed Services Committees, where they say that they were told by their source, they said now a Daily Mail source inside the room has given us stark details. They say the lawmaker speaking on condition of anonymity urged the White House to answer questions about Karg Island, Iran's crucial oil export hub, supposedly nuclear material and regime change. According to the Daily Mail, the lawmaker said that the White House must answer for the plans, particularly regarding Karg Island and troops on the ground. And he said the answers are jaw-dropping and will blow your brains out. Now, that doesn't sound very good to me. I don't trust the British press, but I also don't trust whatever we think we're doing militarily. There's a huge number of troops on their way to the region. And here from Nancy Mace, who was an avid supporter of the Iran war. She writes, I just walked out of a House Armed Services briefing on Iran. Let me repeat, I will not support troops on the ground in Iran, even more so after this briefing. And then she later claims to be vindicated because Mark Rubio, otherwise known as Narco Rubio, says the U.S. can achieve Iran objectives without ground troops. Now, we still don't even know what these objectives are. We know that after 24 hours, apparently, the United States government classified reports on U.S. casualties. So we don't even know how many Americans have been killed, how many have been injured. We don't know how many Iranians have been killed. We know early on there were 1,500 dead, including 200 mostly under 12-year-old girls killed at a girls' school by a U.S. Tomahawk missile. And somehow killing children at a girls' school and threatening to blow up all their power plants is supposed to make the Iranian people come rushing out and say, thank you, Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, for liberating us, and we're going to overthrow our government. I don't think so. If you believe that, I will sell you several Brooklyn bridges. So this is really an extremely dangerous situation. Americans are seeing the price of gas go out of control. I had a farmer friend in California. I didn't get a chance to put it in my slideshow, but he just sent me a photograph of diesel prices in California, $7.49 a gallon. I can tell you this is not going to help our grocery stores, your grocery carts. This has to stop. And the Congress has been absolutely despicable, which brings me to the candidates here. And also we have a candidate running for governor in Maine. But Article 1, Section 8 says it is the Congress that's supposed to declare war, not the president. The Congress abdicated once and then they did it again. And they did it, in my opinion, Gregory Meeks changed his vote because they were about to succeed at passing a war powers resolution, and that would lose a lot of congressmen from their deals with Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and all these other companies, which are paying them a huge amount of money, because I can tell you the salary of a congressman for the last 20 years or so has been $174,000 a year. So how is it that so many of them become multimillionaires? AOC was just a bartender. Now she's worth $14 million. So if the war powers was going to pass, they had to prevent it because they would lose a lot of money. So with that cheery news, I'm going to bring in my friends here, my guest, Jose Vega, and John Glowa, and who? Okay. Yes, that's it. I guess I don't mean that's it. It looked like there was someone else, but I realized it was my slides. So, John, since you are new to my program and you're also from my a state that is special to me, Maine, maybe you should please say hello and introduce yourself and tell people why you decided to run.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Glowa Sr. I live in China, Maine. I'm at least a seventh generation Mainer. I grew up in Connecticut. My father went to work for Sikorsky Aircraft, and that's where I learned my street smarts. I moved back to Maine in mid-1980s, and I've been back ever since for the last 4 decades now. I had many jobs in my life. My career, I was very lucky enough to get a career working for the Maine state government starting in 1986, mostly with the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. I am a lifelong environmentalist. In fact, I was the youngest government official in the state of Connecticut when I was 15 years old, when I tried to save an area near my home for a wildlife sanctuary, and I was not successful. But I'm the kind of person, I never give up and I never go away. I'm now 72 years old. And this is going to really be my last rodeo. And I'm going to pull out all the stops and do anything and everything I can do that's legal to get on the ballot and hopefully become Maine's next governor.
Very interesting. And Jose, we'll go to.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, I just want to clear up some misinformation. I have many criticisms of AOC, but she is not worth $14 million.
Oh, how much?
Just like $500,000, I think, 555,000, according to her latest income thing. So
really? Well, thank you for clearing that up. I think we should check it out. We can look up the ethics committee report, which is supposed to be public information.
Yes, that's what I'm referencing. But anyway,
okay.
Again.
All right, good. Well, I wouldn't want to spread disinformation if it's only $500,000. I don't know. How long has she been in Congress?
Long time, 2018.
Okay.
So anyway, hey, listen, there's ways to go. Anyway, first of all, hi. I'm running for Congress in the Bronx in the contiguous district. She's New York 14. I'm New York 15. And I'm running both as a Democrat and as a independent. And New York City has fusion ballot laws which allow you to do both, and I'm here to disrupt the entire system. And I'm having fun while doing it as well. And the topic of tonight's symposium is very apt, given what has happened to me. Would you like me to go into that now, Diane?
Sure. Why don't you say a little bit about what happened? And
sure.
John, this is Jose's, this is Jose's second race for Congress in the Bronx. And I don't know, Jose, if you want to say something about your district.
Yeah, sure. I probably should. Also, I see that little guy there. I have a cat myself too. Ow. But
that's Pipsqueak. We were told he's John's campaign manager. Go ahead.
Wow. Yes. Well, I'm running for Congress in the Bronx, in the poorest congressional district in the entire country. Not a lot of people know that. And the same place where there is Wall Street is also, the Bronx. They're only separated by about 3 miles or so. And I'm running for Congress there. We are currently occupied by a a congressman named Richie Torres, who takes all this money from the APAC lobby and other lobbies like that, like NORPAC and others that have set up headquarters here in the district. Regardless, the harassment that has happened this week, on Monday, we had somebody snooping around and stalking my residence where I live, where my family lives, and just refusing to leave after the neighbors were asking him if he could just come back later. He said, no, I have to do this now. I have to do this now, just being completely despicable and, just intimidating. And he had the way he was dressed seemed to be, as if his intentions weren't good. And that was something the neighbors had highlighted to me, was that, if this man was trying to interview you, why did he look the way he did? He was wearing a hoodie, and he's, clearly looked out of place for the neighborhood. They described him as a white man who looked skittish. And, I'm very thankful that my neighbors decided to flag this to me and tell me and my family that this happened. So it's good to know that our neighbors are active. But obviously, we put out a press release called "Is this pre-assassination surveillance?" Are they trying to, probe and see what would happen if they actually did try to do a hit on me and my family or hurt somebody in my family? And that's what happened on Monday. We got security camera footage of this guy coming in out in the building and out of the building illegally. And we also filed a police report, and we published his name. His name is Alex Augenbraun, who turns out he has written for the Jewish Telegraphic Agency. He writes for the Hunter College Envoy. He's about 23, 24 years old. He's written about trips going to Israel and back, and, visiting a border of Lebanon and practicing in Jewish mysticism, all kinds of things. And so, it's a very toxic time. And given what happened today with Nardine Kiswani, where the FBI foiled a plot to basically hurt her, assassinate her. There was somebody from the Jewish Defense League who was saying they were going to Molotov cocktail her apartment and then flee to Israel. Is just completely insane, the atmosphere that we find ourselves in. But yeah, that's just a little bit on me and what happened.
Jose, John is here, and John and Jose, Ashley, are you ready? I'm going to bring you in because what I see in your screen is, there you are. Great. Hi, Ashley. This is Ashley Banks from Illinois, who's having some connection issues. Can you hear us? Oh,
no.
I guess she's still having connection issues. Well, that was Ashley Banks. She's running for Congress in Illinois. And, I think this is outrageous, Jose. I'm familiar with that so-called quote unquote journalist because he came to a meeting that I spoke at Hunter College and was asking really hostile questions with a very nasty undertone. Then he tried to attend my campaign launch event, and we found out that somehow he'd gotten the address and called and disinvited him. But this is definitely bad news, especially lurking around your apartment. I find it pretty creepy.
Yeah, me too.
John, I hope you haven't had anything like that happen in your campaign thus far.
No, I'm kind of flying under the radar. Nobody's really taking me seriously yet. It's not serious enough to, to do stuff like that. But I completely intend to get on the ballot, and I think once I'm on the ballot, it's going to be a whole new ball game.
If I may ask, and then I want to come back to Jose's thinking, but John, what do you want to do as governor of Maine that you would think would be important? I mean, Maine has had some very important governors and very important people. One of my favorites, of course, is Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, who did a lot for the country and was governor for a while. I think when he was governor, the terms were only 1 year. So he got elected a few times in a row. But what do you think you can do as governor of Maine that would fundamentally shift the situation?
I am the governor of reform. Our Maine state government is based on 2 centuries of partisan politics, and it's become a big pile of whatever. And so what I intend to do is bring in an apolitical panel of government experts who need to look at our state constitution, all of our laws, all of our rules, and all of our programs, and come up with recommendations for change. We need to reform the system. The system does not work for the people. It is rigged, it is corrupt, and it favors those in power in the government, and it favors the moneyed special interests. The people of Maine have been left out, have been left behind, and that's why we have so many problems, so many societal problems in our state that state government is just ignoring. And I want to put the people first. We need to rearrange the priorities, and we need a government that is efficient and effective. Most recently, there was a report that our state issued about $45 million in checks to an outfit under our Maine Care program. And the outfit did not provide sufficient documentation, but the state issued it anyway. And our governor is a former attorney, so the public didn't learn about this until about 5 years after it happened. And not only that, our legislature didn't learn about it until about 5 years after it happened. So Maine effectively, our government effectively has no checks and balances between the three branches of government. So I want to reform government. We need to make it so that it works for the people, so that it works, period. It's an absolute mess right now. It's a disgrace, in my opinion. And I would say that the people I talk to, the vast majority, really, really want change, really do. And many of them are wanting to vote independent because the two parties have really destroyed are destroying our country, and certainly are destroying our state. I do have some good news, which is kind of interesting as well. We're going to be having the Republican and Democratic primaries in June. That will mean that on the ballot in November, there will be one Democrat and one Republican. Right now, it looks as though there may very well be 4 independents on the ballot. And I believe that would be history making for the state of Maine to have so many.
May I ask, what is the signature requirement, or how do you get on the ballot in Maine as an independent?
I would initially say that the state government doesn't want independents to be on the ballot.
Well, there's nothing new. That's every state.
Well, all I can speak for is Maine. I can tell you they don't want independents to be on the ballot. Democrats and Republicans are required to have 2,000 signatures each, but their time period for gathering those signatures is about 2 months shorter than it is for independents.
I see.
Independents are required to have 4,000 signatures. Now, the logic behind the 4,000 is, well, they want to make sure that the independents have sufficient public support to get it on the ballot. That's absolute nonsense, because you can have no public support, and if you have money, you can pay somebody to go get your 4,000 signatures, which, quite frankly, I'm having to do. I'm having to borrow $25,000 to pay people to get signatures to get me on the ballot. When I say I'm going to pull out all the stops, that's what I mean. Do I have that $25,000? No, that's why I have to borrow it. But I do fully intend to get the 4,000 and keep going. So
now I would like to ask your thoughts on hearing what Jose reported about this stalker lurking around his apartment building and asking all of his neighbors when he's going to be home.
Sure. I will say Maine is probably like everywhere else, where party politics, at least, is extremely dirty. It's extremely slimy. And in my opinion, both parties put themselves first. In my case, I ran for governor 4 years ago. And the Democratic Party, I ran as a Democrat. I wanted to challenge Janet Mills to a primary because I believe in democracy. And I believe that the public should have the opportunity to choose who's on the ballot. So I let the party know that I was running, wanted to challenge her. I became a candidate. I got no help from the party at all to gather any signatures. I was treated by the party as though I had leprosy. Now, there weren't any threats or anything like that, but it was a very passive aggressive situation by the party. They also violated their own charter by endorsing Governor Mills 8 months before any primary. They claimed that I wasn't a candidate when I was.
Right. That seems to be how they do the presidential elections, if you remember, right? They decided Biden was the candidate.
Yeah.
They told Kennedy when he tried to run as a Democrat that they simply were going to give his votes to Biden. That's why he became an independent. The Democratic National Committee said if you win the primary in New Hampshire or the caucuses in Iowa, Joe Biden will get all of your delegates. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And I was happy Kennedy went forward with that because people don't realize how corrupt it is. And I would also say if the party wanted to win, you would think they would have a primary, right? Because that would engage people. Americans love a fight. They'd love to see people duking it out at an actual debate of real ideas, not a staged game show.
The icing on the cake for this particular incident is the fact that it takes 5 county chairs to file a grievance. So 5 county chairs filed a grievance with the party for endorsing Mills 8 months before a primary. And just before the grievance was to be heard, the party got rid of one of the 5 county chairs. So that only left 4, and the grievance was dismissed, thrown out. So, that kind of stuff is great experience for me. Terrific experience because it's given me a really, really thick skin. And I have a much better idea of what to expect as far as, threats or potential threats or anything like that. Who knows what could happen? Now, I'm taking on the system, okay? And the system does not want to be taken on. Change is not going to come from within the system. It's got to come from outside the system. So I'm taking on the system. And frankly, at my age, I really don't care. I'm not going to lose a job. And this is like I say, this is my last shot. And whatever happens. I'm just going to do my best, and that's all I can say. It's all I can do.
Do you think running for governor is not federal, right? You're not going to be involved in federal policy, but
not directly.
It seems to me, what do you think the governors could do? Do you think governors could get together and do something to jam up this war drive? It seems like states that have a lot of like you said, Connecticut, right? Sikorsky. Is there anything that what could the governor of Connecticut do sure. I'm interested if you have a thought on that.
What I say to folks is I'm an old dog, but I've got a lot of new tricks in my bag. And one of the things I will be doing my first night as governor, I will be hosting homeless people in the Blaine House in the governor's mansion. My goal as governor is to be a leader, and we haven't had a leader for a governor, in my opinion, since Percival Baxter a century ago. That's my opinion. What can a governor do? Go down to Washington, D.C., stand on the steps, knock on the door, attract attention, get the press. Be a leader. Here in Maine with ICE, I've publicly stated that I'll bring up the National Guard if we have to protect Maine citizens from unlawful acts by the federal government. We'll also engage the Maine State Police as well. Activate the Maine National Guard, and the governor's job is to take care of Maine, and I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure that our people are protected. And as far as on a federal level, I'll go down to Washington, D.C. I
think that would be great. If we can get some governors, we need to get something outside the box.
Sure.
But Jose, I also would like you to chime in if you have thoughts on all of this.
Well, it's interesting because a governor, you basically call the shots for the state. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot with like Mayor Mamdani, right? Because he's just the mayor of New York City, but he's also the mayor of the most powerful city in the United States, one of the largest and most notorious, right? So and I've been thinking a lot about this argument about, well, is there any usefulness in city councilmen and confronting them about their position on the war? I'll give you a good example here. We have had here in the Bronx, Richie Torres, my opponent, who is just completely disgusting, a total war pig, just like a total loser. And he has been endorsed by 12 Bronx elected officials. These are city councilmen, assemblymen, a fellow congressman, Adriano Espaillat. I think he's also been endorsed by the borough president of the Bronx, which is Vanessa Gibson, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi. Just the most disgusting parts of the establishment have decided to come out and endorse this guy. Now, if I am Justin Sanchez or Althea Stevens or, Pierina Sanchez, these are the names of local elected officials here in the Bronx who have endorsed Richie Torres. These are people who have supposedly been outspoken about Gaza, outspoken about Palestine. In fact, in the case of Pierina and Althea Stevens, they wrote letters to the convention and to Kamala Harris urging there be a Palestinian voice. Do these people understand the cost, the human cost of what their endorsements mean? Because I genuinely try to wrap my mind around this. It's like, if you say you stand for something, why would you endorse somebody who stands for the opposite? Now, is it the case that these people are fake and they don't actually have any principles and they are just complete empty suits? Or are they intimidated by something that keeps them in line? Are they more afraid of their reputation being at stake and the way the machine would come at them than they are more afraid of losing their soul? It's an interesting question, because I've been confronting some of these local politicians saying, your decision to, endorse, and when I say confront, I just mean like I just showed up a graphic of who endorsed Richie Torres. Your decision to endorse Richie Torres, you're asking people to vote him in for another 2 years. What do you think is going to happen in those 2 years if this man is your congressman? But then they would say, well, he's doing good for the Bronx at least. Really? We just shut down 14 schools in the last 6 years. You know who's been in power for 6 years? Richie Torres. 14 schools. And we've shut down healthcare centers, and now we're building a casino in the Bronx, which the borough president believes is economic development. These people are out of their minds. They're insane. And if no one calls that out, then you're just going to keep getting that slop. You're going to keep getting the same old, same old. This is just a Democratic Party at work. And I think it's part of the reason why people don't come out and vote. And so I think if you had a governor or a mayor who just started doing things like lobbying the Congress, just like anybody could get on a bus down to DC and lobby the Congress and lead by example, that would be very strong. I wonder if, like, I, as a congressman, would also just start doing citizen lobbying with other citizens. Just start showing up into other congressmen's office. Be like, hey, this is Congressman Vega here, looking for Congressman Cortez. I've got 10 people here with me. Is she available for a meeting? That would be that would be quite something. Because you're supposed to lead by example. And I think you're absolutely right. If you were governor, you should just start doing what you would be doing if you are now, but the only difference is you just have this title of authority. So, yeah.
Well, one of the very radical things I will do is I will be holding weekly town meetings all across the state.
Whoa, that's radical.
It is extremely radical for our state. Because the governors have their ivory towers, and they won't mingle with the riffraff, and that's been that way for years and years and years and years. And I tell people, number one, I'm not a politician. Number two, I'm just a regular person. I don't have a lot of money. I have the same issues and problems and concerns that other folks have, and I think part of a huge problem in Maine and nationwide is the fact that we are so divided. And part of my sales pitch, as it were, is that as an independent governor, a huge part of my job will be to try to bring people together. Democrats will not work with Republicans. Republicans will not work with Democrats. And this this chasm is just going to continue to grow wider and wider and wider. So my plan is to have weekly town meetings, sit down and meet with people face to face, let them let off steam, whatever, and then go to their legislators, many of whom, frankly, are deadwood or rubber stamps, and go to their legislators and put pressure on their legislators to make the positive changes that we need in our state.
What's the population size of Maine?
It's roughly 1.4 million.
That's kind of funny because that's almost what the Bronx is alone in just this borough. And Maine is massive, right?
Well, everybody either knows everybody or is related to somebody. Maine is massive. It is large. It is as large as the rest of New England combined, about 35,000 square miles, and we have an absolute national and global treasure in our North Maine woods, which folks haven't discovered yet. So I didn't say anything about it, but the area, one of the areas is 3.5 million acres. Virtually no one lives there, and it's half again as large as Yellowstone Park. So so we have tremendous natural resources. I mean, our environment is our economy here in Maine. And
go
ahead.
Sorry, go on. I just wanted to say, one thing that states could do, something that I'm really concerned about because it affects everything and it affects the ability of people to advocate for themselves, is the literacy rate. And it got even worse after COVID with the lockdowns. But the national average is that only 30% of high school students, seniors, can read at a high school senior level. And they're saying, I believe it's 54% of the whole American population is reading at a 6th grade level or lower, which means you get now to the 250th anniversary of the founding of the Republic, the majority of the American population would not be able to read for comprehension the documents that founded our nation. The Federalist Papers, for example, or even the Declaration of Independence. I know, Jose, you've been reading the Declaration of Independence with people in your office, but I was thinking about that because one way a governor could also make a difference is say, hey, we're going to pilot a program to address this problem and come up with something. I don't know if you've thought about it or if it's an issue. I believe it is an issue in Maine because Maine also has a lot of poverty, as do many states. You'd come up with a program that succeeds, that addresses it and becomes, in a sense, a model that can be shared across the country and change things. Or you draw the line like Minnesota did really with ICE. They forced them to back down. And I thought it was funny because Trump did what he did with Yemen. He said, well, we've cleaned up the problem in Minnesota. We deported 4,000 people and there's no problem. No, the people stood up and defeated the policy. So I was wondering if you have thoughts about particular issues, whether it's drug addiction, you mentioned the homeless, how you would solve that, how that might become a beacon or a model for what other states around the country could do.
How long is this program?
Seriously,
how long is it? How much time?
We have another 25 minutes. It's an
25
hour.
minutes. Okay, I'm going to take 24 and a half, okay?
Try 15. I want Jose to have some.
When you asked me if I've thought of it, I'm trying to think of everything. And frankly, that's what separates me from the party candidates. Party candidates are nothing but mouthpieces, and they just say the same old blah, 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 and expect to win by absolutely saying nothing. The words come out of their mouth, but they don't say anything. So, education. Maine is among the lowest states in terms of proficiency in math and reading. Maine is a state of tremendous disparity in income. Tremendous. We have a very high percentage of people, and I don't know exactly what it is, but who are in poverty level. and we've got a bunch of people who have a ton of money. We need to have a progressive taxation system, which we don't have. We need to have relief, property tax relief for those who are least able to pay property tax, which we don't have. We need to have sales tax relief for those who are least able to pay, which we don't have. As far as drug issues go, that particular issue is very, very near and dear to my heart because my late ex-wife was a drug user. She had substance use disorder, and for decades, and mental illness. And we divorced in 2010, and she died in 2020 of a morphine overdose. So, unfortunately, I'm far too familiar with the issue, but that's helping me to help others. And one reason why I want to make it a very high priority for my administration. When I say we need to help people, put people first, we need to help those the most who need the most help. And folks with drug issues obviously need help. We need to rearrange our priorities. You know, Maine has the money. Trouble is, the money's going where it shouldn't be going, and a lot of it's being wasted, and a lot of it's not being collected because of, for example, tax breaks and things like that for the wealthy. I want to see that the wealthy pay their fair share, and I want to see it.
I ask you on this drug question.
Yes.
What kind of programs? What do you think? For example, how was your late ex-wife failed by the system? What could have been done? What should have been available for someone in her situation?
She was ill, and I can assure you that she got ample help. But she was ill, and she just didn't get well. Mm. So I've been meeting with folks who have drug issues, who are in recovery. God bless them. Because I have a fairly good sense of how difficult it is to kick it. So we need to spend more resources. We need to devote more resources on mental health issues, drug issues, and like I say, help the people the most who need the most help. And I underline the word need because as I go door to door and talk to people, a lot of people are upset that people, in their eyes at least, a lot of people are getting money that they don't deserve. Are getting government aid that they don't deserve. I have no doubt that those folks are out there, and part of my job is going to be to try and find those folks and deal with them appropriately. But as far as drugs go, mental health, we need to spend a lot more money on mental health care. We need to spend a lot more money on helping folks who have addiction and supporting folks who are in recovery. Like I say, our priorities are upside down. I just want to turn them right side up.
Well, let me ask you.
That's not that earth shaking.
All right, Jose, what are your thoughts? I'm sure that the Bronx has no problems with drug addiction, but if it did, what would you do about it?
The first thing you have to do is bankrupt Wall Street, where a lot of the drugs come from. A lot of money laundering and a lot of the economy right now is propped up through this illegal market, which is a lot of it is drug trading and also other illicit things too. And if you actually examined a lot of the money, where it comes from, or how it's being washed, you would find that there's a lot of illegal activity going through Wall Street. And so the number one thing you have to do is kill the money. And by killing the money is you have to put limitations on Wall Street through measures like Glass-Steagall, which I know Diane is going to sign an executive order on day one, hopefully. Otherwise, we'll riot and revolt. But we have to separate the speculative banking from commercial banking. It's straightforward, number one. The second thing is that you have to give people alternatives, and you have to give people hope and a means to be productive. Here in the Bronx, we have the highest unemployment rate, the highest illiteracy rate, and you have a country that is wrought with moral decay. Our culture is just completely ugly. But you can fix two birds with one stone through my Space Civilian Construction Corps program. It's a callback to what FDR did after the Great Depression. You have all these young men who are unemployed and uneducated. Well, you got to get them a skill and you have to give them an education. And I'm saying the modern day equivalent of that would be to give them a training and an education that they would be engineers, able to design advanced machine tools, conceptualize of new things to make the efficiency much better. You train them up for 2 years and you would take them out of the Bronx into a camp where they could work with the Army Corps of Engineers and other retired union leaders to learn how to actually get a skill like welding, like engineering, like this and that, and get an education as well. And they would have on-the-job site training where they would learn how to build these major infrastructure projects, which will be federally funded, which again, Diane will immediately authorize on day 2. That they will learn to work on. So they'll learn how to build high-speed rail. They'll learn how to build, massive housing projects and whatnot, and rebuild top-down, thorough inspections of all the public housing that exists. And they will be responsible for building new cities. That's the big one. We haven't built a new city in a very long time. And it's time we actually did build 10 new cities in 10 years. I'm outlining Diane's agenda. That means you have to be elected again. But yeah,
I know you guys are going to get all your constituents on buses and come down to Washington to help me ram these things through.
Absolutely, we will. But yeah, no, and you have to immediately turn ship because right now we are in an economy based on war and profiting off of the death of children. And you have idiots like the borough president of, I shouldn't have called her an idiot, but you know what? It's idiotic to believe that a casino is good for the poorest congressional district in the entire country and that is somehow economic development. That's completely gross, disgusting. You think that, what is the difference of a janitor at a casino mopping up, after some rich people or poor people for that matter, who are going there to gamble away their hard-earned dollars, or, after they eaten cocktails all night and they've gambled away their money, the borough president says this is good because the money will cycle back into the community. The money will, and the casino has promised all these infrastructure, developments. They say they're going to build parks and playgrounds. Oh, you think about that, huh? And if you're a janitor at that place versus being a janitor at a space CCC training center, where you will train the next generation of young people who will build your houses, who will build your cities, who will build the high-speed rail, who will get us back on the moon and Mars and beyond. Now, suddenly your job has dignity. You're not just cleaning up after some rich people or some poor people went to the casino, lost all their money, and the casino made all this money. You are making sure that this next generation of people are able to have an environment where they can focus, where they can actually think. If you're working as a chef at this place, you got to make sure that these kids are fed nutritious meals. Suddenly your life and your job has a dignity to it. It has a meaning to it that far extends what you're actually doing. You are bettering your neighborhood that way. Every single role, even the security officer who's keeping these kids safe, is responsible for making the neighborhood better, just on the basis that they're ensuring the next generation of people can actually fulfill their jobs and use their creative potential to make the world a better place. That's economic development. That's meaning. That's what makes life worth living. And that's what our roles as elected officials are supposed to be, not, artificially pumping a dollar figure through casinos. I think that's perverted. So
I would agree with you. And I think if we had a mission, for example, when we decided we were going to send human beings to the moon, NASA employed 40,000 people. The space program related feeders and industries employed 400,000 people. And not only did we go to the moon, but we developed Velcro, Teflon, laptops, microwaves, laser technologies, new ways of pasteurizing milk. You have kind of a drive and you're saying, we value our people. We value your creativity. you have something to contribute to the advancement of mankind. And I like, there was a contest actually put out by NASA, I think, on what to do with the waste on the space station, something like that. That's fun, right? People, everyone try and figure out how to solve this problem, because if you can solve that, then you can solve problems cropping up all over the country. John, you're an environmentalist. We have a lot of problems with toxic waste dumps, or certain areas in the Bronx, Jose. That's one of the highest asthma areas of the world. They don't seem concerned to do much about that. But I think people would, if people felt there was a commitment from the nation to solve these problems, then you would say, well, we can't throw people on the scrap heap, because we don't know who's going to be the next genius who discovers a solution to this problem.
That's right.
As I go door to door, I reinforce the simple fact that everybody's important. Everybody. You know, we're one person. I'm one person, but we're all important, and we all have something to offer, and we all have something to contribute. So I try to lift people up, and you use the H word, hope. I mean, I'm trying my best to give people hope, especially those who have lost it. And can I talk briefly about the 3 H's? You have a couple more minutes? Okay. Before I do, when you talk about the environment, what Maine state legislature has done is they've weakened our environmental enforcement laws. It made it so that it's almost impossible now to actually enforce environmental violations. They've made the laws so complex. And I know that firsthand from working for our Department of Environmental Protection. 3 H's, hunger, housing, homeless. Maine has a huge hunger problem. Our state of Maine, our state government relies on volunteers and donors to feed the hungry. When I say our state's priorities are upside down, that's certainly one of them. The state needs to do a far, far, far better job of helping to feed our folks. Housing in Maine is becoming extremely serious. We're in need of tens of thousands of new housing units over the next few years. Part of that is a result of COVID and a lot of people moving to Maine from out of state. Most Mainers don't have a lot of money. So what the out of state, we call them out of staters. That's our term for people who come into Maine from away. But the out of staters have money, and the money to burn, a lot of them, and that's raised the housing cost of housing here tremendously. And people that live in Maine, have lived in Maine their whole lives, can no longer afford to live here, can no longer afford to have a place to live. One of my plans is for the state to finance or fund the construction of 10,000 housing units just within the next few years. This should cost roughly $1 billion. And if the state doesn't have it, it's somewhere. We need, like I say, we need to tighten up our system, our government. We need to make
realize
it more efficient and effective.
What you're talking about is 0.5% of what we're about to spend on killing people in Iran, or getting ourselves killed in Iran.
Well, Maine is not a rich state. And what I want to do is I want to get out of the federal government's strings. I want no strings attached. This needs to be state funded, and we want to be able to do what we need to do, and not have it take years and years and years and years. The last issue is homeless. Our state and federal governments combined spent $101 million on the homeless issue in Maine in 2025. Did nothing to solve the homeless problem. We still have the same number of homeless, if not more, than we had before the year began. What's happening is there are lots and lots of to do whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. But it's certainly not getting our homeless people off the street. So my goal as governor is to construct what are called pallet shelter villages. As they say, housing first. We need to get folks out from under the railroad bridges, out of the sleeping bags. We need to stop pushing them around from one place to another. And we need to provide low cost, no cost shelters for these folks to help them turn their lives around, those who can and those who want to, and help them get off the streets, help them get started, get back into society. And we need to work with those folks, mental health people. We need to provide sanitary facilities. We need to provide food. And they cost very, very little. These homeless pallet shelters cost very, very, very little. They're just small structures. So these folks can have some amount of safety, some amount of privacy, and frankly, help give them some amount of pride to get their life back on track. So those are three huge issues here in Maine, and those are some solutions or some ideas that I have for trying to begin to solve them.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you had some success, that would definitely be something to then spread through the nation, of course. I do think that the federal government it says in our Constitution, promote the general welfare. So I think the federal government has an interest in making sure that we don't have millions of homeless people, millions of people who are destitute, who don't have access to adequate health care, adequate mental support, etc. And again, I think the question really is a mission. I wanted, Jose, if you had anything, and then before we go, I wanted to talk a little bit about tomorrow and the statement that you and I have both signed, Jose and John. I don't know if you wanted your name added or not, and I won't put you on the spot here, but
I'm not familiar with it, so if there's
good, yeah, I'll put it up, and you can. But Jose, any thoughts?
Well, I'm also a big proponent of government, of federal government, and I think that FDR has been a great example of what you could do with a good government and a good president, a good presidency. I mean, I think back to his inauguration speech. I think it was of 33, or at least when he was accepting the nomination. He references Dante. And he says that the immortal Dante teaches us that the sins of the cold-blooded are weighed differently than those of the warm-blooded. A government that acts in the spirit of faith, hope, and charity, but occasionally errs, is better than the government that acts in its cold indifference. That's almost a direct quote, although I think I butchered it just a little bit, but that's the point. He says that ultimately, if your governments are going to make mistakes, governments do make mistakes. They will. They're not perfect, right? But it's better to have a government that acts in faith, hope, and spirit of charity or love, because then at least you will have an intention and you'll have a direction. I mean, Roosevelt didn't fix the problems of the Great Depression. I think things didn't start turning around until 38, 39, and that was even pre-war. The first 4 years of his presidency were, things were still pretty rough. And that's something that a lot of people don't acknowledge. But people were optimistic anyway, because
that's the point I wanted to say, because it's the direction, right? It's the intent. It may take a while for the physical reality to catch up to the intent. But if there's the intent, then you'll have the optimism to fight through. But sorry, go ahead, Jose.
No, you stole the words right out of my mouth. So that was my point. Yeah.
Yeah. So tomorrow, I wanted to go to this. Tomorrow, they're having rallies all over the country, sponsored by this outfit that I don't particularly care for, called No Kings, which started as just as far as I can tell, a Democratic Party front to make everyone hysterical about Donald Trump. And there's plenty there to perhaps be hysterical about, but I don't think it's, at any rate. we don't need a partisan divide. We do need to stop this war drive. And the No Kings website has shifted now to include groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, people who have been standing up against the genocide in Gaza. I understand from some people in California, they still don't want to bring up the Iran war, which is idiotic. I don't know which is a bigger threat, this ground invasion of Iran or a tactical nuke we might drop on Iran, or what we're trying to do to provoke Russia. The British just changed their policy and said that of the 455 or so Russian commercial vessels, they've decided to give themselves the right to board and seize any Russian vessel that goes through their waters. So this is, I mean, it's really dangerous. So I wrote a statement, and hopefully I'm going to do this properly here. I'm going to try and get it on the screen, and you can tell me if we succeed at doing this. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think, all right, go away. I want to get rid of this box. I'm sorry, I may not be able to do it here. Oh, okay, fine. Let's see here. It wants me to do something that I'm not interested in doing. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I think, let's see here. Okay, can you see that? Or not yet? I think I have to bring it into the screen, right? Here we go. Hold on a minute.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. How do you like that? Okay, so this is the statement. Is the Epstein class planning a new 9/11 to justify dropping a nuclear bomb? Will your neighbor be fooled again? And I will say that a top Iranian security advisor diplomat who was killed by the Israelis had warned just days before he was killed, that's Ali Larijani, that he was afraid that the Iran war was so unpopular with the American people that he was warning about the danger of some kind of false flag that would be blamed on Iran to get people all fired up. And I can tell you, as the price of gasoline goes up and everything else, I think this, and people find out about Americans who have lost their lives in this, the war is going to become more unpopular. And I do think this is a real danger. Now, let me see if I can you see, hold on, I want you to go to there's the list of signers so far. Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
So myself, Jose Vega, Brian McGinnis, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, Rush Roskowski, Frankie Lozada, who's running in New York, Steve Hill from California, Lacey Villarreal from Florida, Dave Bushaw in Iowa, Karen Ortiz in New York again, Rustin Provence in Wisconsin, Tony Darigo in Florida, and I believe the candidate, do you remember his name, Jose? The candidate in Utah, Adonis, I'm trying to remember his last name. He said to add his name. But I'm asking people, that's on my website, and print it out and take it to these rallies and find the good people there. Find the people who don't want to be part of this knee-jerk part. Oh, I hate this. We don't want to be part of a Democratic Party front operation. We are independent. We want to create a coalition that can prevent the world from going over the abyss. And I think many people are going to be at these rallies because they don't know what else to do with themselves. And I'm asking everyone watching this show to go to my website and print out that leaflet and get it out and take a clipboard. And if you meet people who are serious, get their name, email, phone number, and let's be in touch with them.
I agree.
Yeah, so I know you're planning, or not you per se, but people from your campaign are going to be at some of these rallies in the Bronx and elsewhere, and I have volunteers going to various of them.
Yes, I think it's hilarious because a lot of the people that believed in the Democratic Party that they would do something about the War Powers Resolution, and then they ultimately didn't, are going to be at the No Kings this weekend. So that's why we have to intersect them and just tell them the truth to their face that the Democratic Party just failed and sucks. And it's our job to tell them there's another way.
Exactly. John, any thoughts or comments?
Well, I was going to say, as I go door to door, I'm hearing more of concern with the Democratic Party than I am hearing people saying, well, I'm a Democrat and that's all I do is just vote Democrat. The last thing I do need to add is my email address, if I may.
Sure.
It's,
and your
John,
website. Do you have a website?
Well, if you just, yes, it's, my email address is johngloa4governor@gmail.com. And if you email me.
John, is that FOR or the number 4?
For FOR.
Okay, John Gloa for governor at gmail.com.
Just email me there and I'll get right back to you. And I do need to say too that I still need help gathering signatures. If anybody lives in or near Maine who wants to help out, just let me know. We can use all the help we can get. Thank you.
You're welcome. And in your case, can people from either party sign? What are I presume signers have to be registered voters, and can they be with any party?
Any party or no party.
Right.
And they don't have to live, the collectors do not have to live in Maine.
Wow. Okay. And the deadline is when?
I'd like to have them by May 1. They need to be submitted by the end of May.
Okay.
It's going to take me a lot of time. I'm going to have to go to probably 100 to 150 different town offices across our 35,000 square mile state to get them all validated. So as I said before, they don't want independents to run for office.
No. So you have to get the signatures validated in the district where you're collecting them.
In the town. Well, no. See, we can collect them anywhere. Now I can collect them in Augusta, but the people can live in Jackman, which is 85 miles away.
Right.
But I do have to go up to Jackman so that the town clerk there can validate that signature that person actually
That's
lives.
how on earth are you supposed to? That is ridiculous.
So that's why I'd like to get them by early May. It's going to take me several weeks to because some of these sheets only have one name on them, and I'm going to have 1,000 to 2,000 more coming. I already have a ton of sheets, so it's
Right.
going to take me a long time to sort through them and count them up and take them to the town offices, and then for them to review them and get them back to me. So
Right.
I do want to add one more thing.
Yes.
is that people don't like the independents to run. Many people don't because they say that we're spoilers. If anybody's a spoiler in this election, it's the Republicans and the Democrats, because the independents outnumber in our state, both the Republicans and the Democrats. And it's the independents who actually represent the people, not the party.
Yes. Very good.
Thank
Jose, you're welcome. Jose, anything you want to say before?
If people want to support me, they can go to votevega.nyc and be a part of the movement to take down Richie Torres from ever holding any elected official position again. And we will exile him to the island where St. Helena, where Napoleon was as well, and he can learn from his mistakes there. And he'll be forced to watch development of Gaza. He'll be forced. We'll put a TV in front of him where he will have to see young Palestinians thrive. That will be our revenge. And
Yes, we have a kind of funny comment coming in here.
I don't for cat campaign managers. That is such an adorable cat.
I rescued him almost 10 years ago, and I'm both his mother and his father.
There you go.
So you have a hello from someone, I think it's an Andrew Frederick Laverdiere, who's running for assembly there.
Heidi,
Maine.
nice to hear from you.
Yeah, so great. Well, I will say, of course, if people want to support me, if you want peace, if you want to change, then visit SARE, F-O-R, president, sareforpresident.com. Sign up and volunteer. If you want to get battle practice, go to Maine and petition. Go to the Bronx and petition. They're having petitioning boot camp for everyone, because to get on the ballot as an independent, I will need 968,000 valid signatures across the United States. So you might as well get your practice in now. Before that, though, we have to stop this war. And I cannot express strongly enough my total disgust at the members of Congress for selling out. They want a partisan victory, and whether tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people lose their lives in their effort seems to mean nothing to them. And I think it is really disgusting, and people should call your congressman and let them know that you don't appreciate their abdication of their constitutionally assigned duty to declare war or not. So that's what I have. And I want to thank both of you for joining me. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other.
Pipsqueak says thank you.
You're welcome.